Hey everyone, I'm your host Tom Shaughnessy and welcome back to Chain Reaction, a research-driven podcast that's a part of Delphi Digital. If you're not on Delphi's research portal, you're missing out on the critical analysis read by the top minds in the crypto space, so be sure to check it out. One quick housekeeping item, nothing said on this podcast is a solicitation to buy or sell any security or token, or to make any financial decisions. Also, all advertisements and podcast sponsors are strictly for informational purposes only and not endorsements of any products or services. I may personally hold tokens mentioned on the podcast, and you can view our show notes below for our complete disclosures. I want to give a quick shout out to our wonderful sponsor, eToro. The best way to be smart about trading crypto is to use the smartest trading platform. eToro is one of the largest trading platforms in the world, with over $1 trillion in trading volume on the platform per year. U.S. customers can trade the most popular crypto assets with extraordinarily low fees. And if you're not ready to trade yet, you can practice on the platform with their virtual trading feature. Best of all, you can connect with 11 million other eToro traders around the world to discuss trading, charts, and all things crypto. You can create an account at b.tc/eToro reaction or click the link below in your show notes. Just scroll down on your phone, click the eToro link, and it'll bring you right to their website. With that, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have on Camila Russo to discuss her new book, The Infinite Machine, how an army of crypto hackers is building the next internet with Ethereum. Camila, how's it going?
Hey Tom, great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, same here. I pre-ordered your book a couple of weeks ago. I can't wait to get it.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Thanks so much. Hopefully everyone listening pre-orders too.
Yeah, I'm going to link to it in the show notes. So, let's talk about the book. What's like the genesis of wanting to write about Ethereum?
Sure. Okay, so this is back in 2017 when I kind of started thinking about this book. Back then, I was reporting on macro markets with Bloomberg News here in New York. And so in the team I was in, it's called the Markets Live blog, and it covers kind of daily market moves. It's kind of like Bloomberg terminal version of Twitter, where you post like short blurbs on what's going on in the market. And so I started kind of writing about Bitcoin and ICOs because, as you know, 2017 was like a huge year for that. And so I started diving in the space and covering it in like more lengthy articles for Bloomberg News and radio, TV, everything. And by the end of the year, I just thought, this is incredible what I just witnessed. Like this whole space blew up. This is kind of the new frontier of technology and finance. I was just so fascinated by it. And I had always wanted to write a book. So I thought, this is the right opportunity, the kind of right topic, the thing that kind of moves me to spend so much time and energy in. So I started kind of, thinking about what the best story to tell was. And so I looked at kind of the space and realized there had been books about Bitcoin, really good ones like Digital Gold, like kind of giving the backstory and how, this cryptocurrency was created. But there was nothing like that for Ethereum. And to me, Ethereum really was the most interesting story to tell, especially one that hadn't been told. To me, it's what kind of moved blockchain technology forward from peer-to-peer cash to peer-to-peer everything with smart contracts, and it had kind of the advantage of having a known founder and such a charismatic one in a sense as Vitalik. So I thought it's just like a perfect story. So yeah, that's how I decided to tell the history of Ethereum, and I was just really surprised that it hadn't been told yet. So excited to be the first to tell it.
Yeah, no, to be honest, there's so much free content out there online. And, me and the guys go back and forth on this, on what should be free, what should be paid. But at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of people like having like one source they can hold and put on their bookshelf and really learn about something like Ethereum. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I had that kind of researching for this book. There is a ton of information, but, I couldn't find kind of, one reliable place with the whole story, from start to finish. And I think that's very valuable. And also kind of, having, taken the time to interview everyone involved and have, firsthand information, not just kind of, secondhand Bitcoin talk posts and, stuff like that. I still think that's missing. So, really hope to contribute to the common crypto space knowledge with this.
No, for sure. And, I'd love to hear what the process is like. Is this like, you sit down every day of the week and, you're at the computer for 12 hours, or like how exactly does the process of writing a book kind of work for you? I'm wondering, I'm sure there's a lot of time split between writing and deleting and researching.
Yeah. So the process varies according to kind of the stage I was in. So when I started, I dedicated, I think, the first 6 months or so, 100% to researching. Okay, so to backtrack a little bit. First, I had to kind of write a book proposal, pitch it to different publishers, like get a book deal, all of that. Like that was a process in itself. And once I had the deal with HarperCollins, I kind of sat down to work. I kind of had a timeline. I wanted to deliver the book in, hopefully have the first draft done within a year. And so I kind of had I scheduled my time accordingly. So in my head, I would spend the first 6 months researching, and then the next 6 months writing it, and I'd have my first draft. In reality, I think it was more. I did spend, I think, the first 6 months to 8 months doing the research, and that meant getting like all the main interviews, going to different hackathons and conferences, just like, diving into the Ethereum community and just like getting to know people well, their stories, like talking to them. So that's what I did in the first 6 months. And in that time, I was still at Bloomberg, so it was tough. Like I had my full-time job, and then I had to like either take time off, and I also got some time of book leave. So, but it was 3 months, which I took in this kind of initial research period, and then after I was done with researching. And I mean, in this time I was doing these interviews and also trying to write them down, because I felt, like when I actually start writing, maybe I'll forget and, won't, have all this color. So I had to do some writing too, but it was kind of like very loose. Like it didn't have a structure. Like if I went and did one interview, I'd kind of go back and type it up and like type, things that caught my attention about the person, but not actually writing the book. And then once I felt I had enough research material, I sat down to actually start writing. And in the beginning, it was just like I didn't start from the very beginning of the book. I think it was like I had pieces that were more clear to me of like how they went, like specific like scenes in the book that I wanted to get down. So I started with those. And once I had those, then I started kind of weaving them together. So yeah, it's kind of like a messy process. And it was even messier when, I was at Bloomberg and not on leave, because I had to, I tried to write when I got home from work, but I was like tired, like it wasn't really the best. And then I took like all my weekends to write. It was I had like no free time. And then I left Bloomberg because I had like I got some extra time for book leave. And when that time was running out in January of last year, I was like, I still had, I think, I don't know, like maybe 40% or 30% of the book left. And I just like couldn't imagine going back to like my full-time job and not being able to, to finish it in the way I wanted to. So
no, that's a good reason to head out.
Yeah. And also like I had been there for 8 years. I thought, like I need to finish this book. And I also wanted to eventually start my own thing or freelance, I don't know, be a little more independent. So I thought, it's kind of the right time. And so after that, it was a lot better, the writing process, because I had most of, or I don't know, like 95% of my research, of my interviews. I had like all the material. I had maybe half of the book, and then I could just like sit and write. And in that time, it was very much like a normal job. Like I would, get up early, go to the gym, and then just start writing. I don't know, like take an hour or two for emails, have lunch, and then like write for the rest of the day. And I did that like for 6 months until I had kind of my final draft. I think I turned it in June, I think, last year.
No, the process is crazy. I mean, to be honest, it kind of echoes a lot of stuff that we go through at Delphi. Like it's just a messy process that a lot of the times some of the guys, we just end up writing something or a report and we just end up deleting the whole thing,
Yeah, it's a lot of writing and rewriting. I mean, the book today looks nothing like my first draft. Like I moved so many things around, like deleted, took out characters, like Hey
everyone, we'll continue this conversation shortly, but first a quick word from our amazing sponsors. Are you interested in getting into the cryptocurrency markets but don't know where to start building your portfolio? We have the answer for you. It's called Copy Trader by eToro. With Copy Trader, you can automatically copy every trade of eToro's top crypto traders at the exact price in real time. No need to study up on markets or develop your own strategies. Simply sign up and copy the trader of your choice. Any profits they make, you do too. With eToro, you get access to the world's most popular cryptocurrencies with transparent trading fees all in one easy-to-use app. Copy the smart money with eToro. Join now at b.tc/eToro reaction, linked in the show notes below. So what's the craziest part though? Like when you compare like when you started to today, I mean, how have your views on Ethereum or the people or the space changed? I mean, for better or worse? I mean, I'm sure things have changed for you like since you started, right?
It's such a hard question. Like I've been asked this before, and like I think I have like so many different kind of thoughts about Ethereum now. And but okay, so one thing that really surprised me from like interviewing everyone involved at the start was just how different everyone is. And like all the co-founders, like they all came from such different walks in life and backgrounds.
Were you able to interview all of them though? Like I feel like a few of the earlier ones are kind of hard. Like there's one or two there that I feel like people forget about that are really like ghosts at this point.
Yeah. So okay. So the 8 like people who are considered to be like co-founders. I know there's like some controversy around that, but like the ones that I consider to be the 8 initial co-founders are well, obviously Vitalik, Mihai Alisi, Gavin Wood, Jeff Wilkie, Joe Lubin, Amir Tetrit, Anthony Diorio. Am I missing one?
People have to buy the book to find the 8th co-founder. We got it.
Yeah. but yeah, no, I was able to interview all of them. And yeah, I mean, they're just so different, like you have kind of the idealistic open source, utopian thinker like Mihai, and kind of Vitalik falls in this category. You have like the hardcore hackers like Gavin and Jeff Wilkie. You have like the more like business minded people like Joe Lubin and Anthony Diorio, and then Amir Chetrit is also like, yeah, I think he falls into like businessy minded, but like, yeah, he's a little bit of a mysterious character that's like, I don't know, doesn't like to doesn't like to kind of show up in things, and there's like, yeah, like he asked to not be included in the list of co-founders in the website, so he likes to keep like a very low profile. So yeah, you have like all these different characters that came together. And I think it really, that really surprised me, because it's like there was this one vision, this one project of like building a platform that would enable a new decentralized future. And it attracted all these, different characters who in the beginning kind of put aside their differences to make it a reality. But, in the end, I think their ideas on how they should get to this final like end goal they were just too different, and they ended up clashing. So yeah, I thought kind of that side of the story was really fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of the co-founders left to go work on other projects, right? I mean, eventually.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at those 8, Vitalik is really the only one working on Ethereum itself. I mean, obviously Joe Lubin is it's a very crucial part of the Ethereum ecosystem still. Gavin Wood was until recently. I think that he's kind of, more and more doing his own thing.
Yeah, I think Gav is totally on. I remember listening to an interview a while ago, and it basically just talked about his issues with Ethereum scaling and EF, and he left to focus on Polkadot. I feel like he's definitely checked out at this point from Ethereum.
Yeah. So I think like they all left, but it's kind of, most of them did leave to do something that's still blockchain related. So it's kind of like, you have this like Ethereum mafia, right? Like you have all these like incredibly talented founders that started out at Ethereum and then kind of branched out to do their own blockchain related things that still contribute to the larger ecosystem in the end.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so back to the book itself on the history. I mean, what's the craziest thing that you kind of uncovered when you were doing your work? And I mean, it might not be something crazy, but I'm sure that you've kind of researched things to a level with this zoomed out view of the entire kind of history here that would kind of take people by surprise. Did anything like really catch you off guard in your research?
Well, I mean, I don't want to give like everything away, but there were definitely things, that I had no idea happened in. So there was this period where Ethereum almost, couldn't go forward. Like after the crowd sale, when they raised $18 million in Bitcoin, and then the Bitcoin price continued was falling in 2015, and then around that time, because they didn't sell those Bitcoin, they ended up with much less money than what they actually raised. And so there were a few things that surprised me in that period. I mean, first, like how the decision to not sell Bitcoin was made, and also, just how dire the situation was. Like Ethereum was so close to not existing at that time, and all the difficult decisions that had to be made, and the things that. So Ming Chan was at the head of the EF at that time, and yes, she told me some of the things she uncovered while kind of doing her restructuring. And yeah, some of the things are really surprising and interesting, but you'll have to read the book.
Sounds sounds spicy. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, the other thing is that you're writing a book on the history of Ethereum, but you also run Defiant, which is the newsletter which is focused on like pretty much day-to-day activity of things being built on Ethereum. It's like you're kind of like wrestling two worlds there, right? Or two different time frames. Does the book go into some of the newer stuff being built on Ethereum, or is that more for the Defiant? I'm just kind of wondering the difference there.
Yeah, no. So the focus on the book is definitely kind of the early days, like the history. I think because it would have been hard to have a book that's like focusing on the present day, because obviously, the process of publishing the book is really long, and then by the time the book comes out, it would be totally outdated. So and I want to have something that's evergreen and that you can pick up 10 years from now and still be relevant. So I think that's kind of why I focus mainly on the early days. But then at the end of the book, I do touch on kind of the very like early beginnings of DeFi. Because I mean, basically the structure of the book is all the kind of pre-Ethereum history of Vitalik coming together with Mihai and founding Bitcoin Magazine, like all of Vitalik's experience with the Bitcoin 2.0 projects, which influenced him in his idea for Ethereum, like all of this like pre-Ethereum work. Then I go into the crowd sale and kind of launch of Ethereum. Then all of these like the early obstacles that Ethereum faced with obviously the DAO, but also the Shanghai attacks, which I wasn't very familiar with before researching this book. And they were also like a really intense moment for Ethereum. And then after kind of overcoming those obstacles, there was the ICO bubble, then the crash. And so that's kind of the structure. And then after the crash, I have one chapter on like hope going forward, saying like, okay, so for most people looking outside of crypto and seeing how like all the prices are down 90%, you might think the space is dead. But if you go into like an Ethereum hackathon and are in the space, you realize that the community is stronger than ever and building applications that are actually being used. And so in that context I talk about kind of this emerging open finance ecosystem. So I definitely touch on it, but not like in any like real depth. I mention it like, okay, this is what's coming up next for Ethereum after kind of the ICO boom and bust, as like a ending in like a hopeful, encouraging note for it. And then my focus on the Defiant comes from researching Ethereum and kind of being in the space. I really became so fascinated by what was being built, and I thought that it's not getting very much. It's not getting covered very much. Obviously, not by mainstream media and not even by crypto media very well. And I mean, to me, decentralized finance is the most interesting thing that's going on in like finance in general and in tech. It's just crazy to see this new financial ecosystem being built. And so it's exciting to me to be covering it from its very early days. So that's kind of where the idea for the Defiant came about. I was like, finishing my book draft in like first half of 2019 and watching this space emerge and not seeing a lot of proper news coverage. So I was like, okay, when I finish the draft of my book, I'm going to start a newsletter on this, so people can be, keep up to date on what's going on and know about the space, learn about the space. And yeah, so I turned in my draft, and then a couple of weeks later, I launched the Defiant.
I love that. And it sounds like an awesome process too. And I guess the other question here is, do you think that your book will actually help get non-crypto people interested, like the tech people of the world, the business finance people of the world? Like, I'm just wondering if and it's probably more of like a sales or marketing type strategy, but how do you kind of approach attracting that class of people in? Because this seems like a really like an engaging read about the start of Ethereum and what's in store and what's next. Meanwhile, I'm just hoping that we can get other people to read it,
Definitely. I mean, that was definitely my hope with the book. The book is written for like a non-crypto person. It covers like crypto from the very, very basics for someone who doesn't, has never heard of Ethereum to understand. So yeah, my hope with the book is that I've written an engaging and entertaining enough story that you don't have to really care that much about Ethereum to enjoy it. It's just like an interesting story about this like ragtag group of people who have this larger than life vision and, did everything to make it a reality, and, kind of the problems and obstacles they faced in their journey, how they recovered. It's this type of like hero journey that's appealing whether you like crypto or not. And then in that process, I obviously explain what the potential of this technology is and why it's important and why I think it's here to stay. So I really hope that the average reader will come out after reading the book with at least like a basic understanding of Ethereum blockchain technology, Bitcoin, and at least an interest to look further into it.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, it's definitely, there's so many like different characters involved with the start of Ethereum that we kind of mentioned there. And the other question for you is, when you're doing all this work on the kind of the initial phases of Ethereum, you have like a unique perspective that you're able to compare all that knowledge to the beginning stages of a lot of new smart contract platforms, right? Like there's a bunch launching, there's a bunch that have recently launched. I guess you kind of have that unique perspective on, whether they can work or not in comparison to Ethereum's beginnings. Do you ever think about that when you're looking at other smart contract platforms?
I don't know. I think it's hard to take, one experience from one platform and hope that it applies to everything else. Because for Ethereum, and I mean, they were the first smart contract platform, so they do have that advantage. I think new blockchains today face so much more competition that it's hard to kind of take Ethereum's lessons and apply them too directly to them. But I think like for sure something that is relevant, that should be relevant to all of them, is Ethereum's main advantage, which is like a passionate community. And I think that's something that came about because people were really excited to start building on Ethereum. Projects were working on Ethereum even before it launched because they were so excited about this, new way of building dApps. And so I think many of the new blockchain projects kind of try to replace that with like marketing or VC funding and things that might help in the beginning, but in the end, what makes a blockchain more viable is if you have this kind of organic interest and this community that just wants to use it. If you don't have that, then if you can have like the best technology and like all the big names, VCs behind you, but if you don't have developers wanting to make stuff with it, and then that will attract users, and it doesn't really matter.
No, you're right. I mean, everybody downplays how important, especially VCs in the space, they all downplay how important a community is.
Yeah. And I think that's, it's so hard. I think the hardest thing to fake, you can buy, you can, hire the best cryptographers and technologists, and you can spend millions of dollars in marketing campaigns and, be the biggest name sponsors at, the biggest crypto conference. And maybe that can get you some traction. But, in the end, you can't buy community. And it's the advantage that Ethereum still has today. So I think any kind of viable challenger to Ethereum, if they can crack kind of the community part of it, then that would be one blockchain to watch out for. But I don't think it's happened yet.
Yeah, no, I don't think it has either. I mean, I'm always on the lookout for early signs of that, because that's where the investment opportunities are. But we'll have to wait and see. And Camila, one of my last questions for you, kind of on this topic, is what about personally for you? Like, has the process made you into an Ethereum maximalist, or are you still kind of on the edge there? I wasn't sure where you kind of stand there, or if the book and the research changed your mind.
I think I'm more bullish on Ethereum after the book, for sure, and now with the Defiant. I mean, to me, I think starting out with the book, I was kind of more interested in the story itself. Like, as a journalist and writer, that's kind of what I'm looking for. It's like, does it have drama? Does it have an interesting character? And Ethereum does. So I was like kind of drawn to Ethereum because of that. But I think coming out of the process, I'm also drawn more to Ethereum because of what I think it can do, like its potential to actually change the way things work. After spending so much time with the community, I am more optimistic that they'll be able to succeed in this. So I'm more bullish in Ethereum after the process, but I'm definitely not an Ethereum maximalist in the sense that I think Ethereum is the thing that I think can work or should work. I like to maintain my journalistic kind of objectivity in this sense, and just kind of watch the space with a hopefully less biased eye than an Ethereum maximalist. And if there are other blockchains that are attracting interesting projects and are making an impact in open finance, I'll cover them, in the same way I'm covering Ethereum. It just, it happens that so far I haven't seen it, but I'm really open to it happening,
No, that's interesting. I'm really looking forward to reading about the history of Ethereum. I mean, we all read the white paper. We all kind of know the early stuff, but we don't, at least I don't have a good sense of kind of the drama and the struggles and everything that went on. So Camila, I'm seriously looking forward to the book. Let people know when it drops and where they could pre-order it.
Yeah, so it'll be launched July 14th, but you can go ahead and pre-order it right now. It's on Amazon Kindle, Audible. So there is going to be an audiobook, and I have to see if I can be the one to narrate it. We'll see. So go ahead and pre-order your copy so you can be some of the first to get it when it launches.
Hell yeah, Camila, looking forward to it. It's for everyone listening, it'll be linked in the show notes below, and I'm excited to read it. So thank you so much, Camila, for your time. I really appreciate it today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was fun talking.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please support the show by hitting subscribe on iTunes, writing a review, or sharing this episode on Twitter and LinkedIn. And stay tuned for our next episode out soon.